Hello, I'm going to show you how we can rectify a birth chart from a person's personality and behavior. So by rectify a birth chart, I mean find out what time the person was born when we do not have the birth time from a birth certificate. And I will demonstrate the ideas and explain how to do this using the birth chart of the singer and songwriter Taylor Swift. So let's jump into this and see how we do it. There are 6 steps. The first step is, of course, we're going to bring up her chart. And we'll bring it up in the Sirius 3.0 software. And if her birth data is already included in the software, typically there is a link to the biography in the Sirius software. So let's do these first 2 steps, and then we'll go into the specific details of how to determine when Taylor Swift was actually born. Now, if at some future time her birth data is released from a birth certificate, we will find out if my rectification is correct. So I like to do this kind of thing. As you know, if you've watched some of my videos, is I like to go out on a limb, show an idea, and test it. So the testing here is we don't know what time she was born exactly. We have a rough idea. And maybe that will be released someday, and we'll find out if my rectification is correct or not. Okay, so let's go into the Sirius software. Here it is, the Sirius 3.0 software, and I will do this from the beginning. I'll click on New, clear all entries, and type in Swift, Taylor, and there she is. She is in the database, and in the notes area, it does have the link to the online Astro Databank, which is very handy. So when I put my cursor here, it turns into a little hand pointing to it, showing that I can click on this, and it will go to astro.com and bring up the biography. And it shows that the ascendant is 25 Scorpio 35. So one of the things I do right away is check to see if the Sirius software gives the same ascendant. So let me click back on the Sirius software, click on Done, because I've read in her data, and it comes up with a completely different ascendant, 8 Capricorn 12. Okay, so let's go back to the website and see why this is. Well, first of all, we notice that the Rodden rating is DD, means dirty data. We don't actually know what time she's born. And in fact, they're giving 2 alternative birth times. According to one of the birth times, we see the ascendant is 25 Scorpio 35, and here it is, 8 Capricorn 12. Going back to Sirius, yes, there it is, the 8 Capricorn 12. So the difference is that Sirius is using this birth time of 8:36 in the morning as opposed to 5:17 in the morning. And sure enough, when I look at the wheel, it's the 8:36 a.m. So this is great because in the software, in the Sirius software, we can go to the link, we can see what the latest information is that's constantly being updated at astro.com, and it's showing us 2 possible birth times separated by several hours. And we happen to have the 8:36 a.m. birth time in the software. Now when we scroll down, another wonderful thing here is that at astro.com it has the source notes, so we can read where these birth times come from. So just to get an idea here, the 8:36 a.m. Pointed out in a Facebook entry on her fan page, and the other birth time is given according to a biography. So 2 different sources giving 2 different birth times, both giving them in the morning. There was another source that gave an evening birth time. It was on a Twitter account, but then it was removed. So it appears fairly good chance she was born in the morning. Even that's not entirely clear. Okay, so let's go back to our PowerPoint and see what the next step is. So we brought up her chart in the software, we went to the biography, reviewed the wheel, step 3, to see if the ascendant matches astro.com. This is if you're doing a famous person, obviously. to verify what we know about this famous person, and we did step 4 to read the online birth data source notes. Okay, step 5 is the actual rectification, and if you're rectifying a client or a friend, you're going right into this step 5 to rectify the chart. Now, there are many ways to rectify a chart. I have another video on rectifying a chart based on events in the person's life. Here we're going to rectify the chart just based on what we know about them. And here's how we do it. We're going to view the vibrational charts and the midpoint structures that we expect to occur. So, the most obvious thing about Taylor Swift is that she's a singer-songwriter. She's spent her adult life so far, I read some biographical information about her, starting from a very early age, her early teens, in singing and then songwriting, and it's what she does, and obviously very well known for it, and she's very, very clever. She just keeps coming up with these songs, and people find them very good. Now, what does a singer-songwriter often have in their charts? In this case, the singer-songwriter, Taylor Swift, I would characterize her music as fairly light. It's not deep, and it's not dramatic or heavy. It's light pop music. It has a nice flowing sound to it. It's not dissonant, and she's very, very creative. She keeps coming up with new stuff. Very often, with this kind of ability, and also with other types of songwriting and music, the vibrations 5, 11, 33, and 55 are common with this kind of talent and motivation and lifestyle. And often the planets Venus and Uranus are involved. Now, if the person's writing deep, ponderous classical music, if the lyrics are very complex and intricate and multi-layered, other things can get involved. I won't go into that right now, but I've got videos on other musicians, and you can watch those videos to get ideas. But in this case, we're going to take a guess that vibrations 5, 11, 33, or 55 may be involved. The 33 vibration is 11 times 3. 3 is the trine, which is soft. 11 is very common with music. It's dynamic and moving. The 5 is creative and exploratory. And 11 times 5 is common for songwriters, arrangers, people who do things that are original. So we'll take a look at it, and then we'll see if it's in her chart. And the 6th step, the 5th and 6th steps are connected together. That's the main rectification process, is we can adjust the chart forward and backward and see at what time the patterns we expect are strongest. And this is one of the fabulous things about vibrational astrology, is that we have a very sophisticated language that can determine very specific things, and typically these planetary configurations do not last all day. Very often they only last a few hours. Sometimes they do last a day or two. But very often they're changing throughout the day, and we see when they become very sharply describing the person. And what we're going to find out, just to give you a preview of what we're going to conclude, we're going to conclude she's probably born around 8:30 to 9:30. So the birth time that we have, let's see if we go back to her chart wheel, 8:36, that's probably the accurate one, not the earlier one, around 5:30. In fact, it's possible that both of these are incorrect. But the birth chart rectification shows that the second time of 8:36 a.m., or possibly a little bit later, is when she was born. I'm hoping that someday her birth time will be revealed, and we'll find out if the rectification is correct. Okay, now let's do it. Let's do the rectification. Okay, vibrations 5, 11, 33, and 55. All we do is we go over here to harmonic charts and we select these harmonic charts. They're usually called harmonic charts. In the system of astrology that I use, we call vibrational astrology. We sometimes call them vibrational charts. But whether you call it vibrational chart or harmonic chart, whatever you call it, it's the same thing. So we simply type in 5, 11, 33, and 55 separated with commas. And we click OK. And now we've created these 4 harmonic charts. We're looking at the 5 vibration chart, and we look at the aspect patterns. We use a wheel style. Let me show you. If I right-click, go to Customize, there's a Customize button, go to the Aspects tab, we'll see these different aspect sets, and we want harmonic, medium, major only. This has the orbs that we use in vibrational astrology. And we simply look at the aspect lines to see if there's a configuration. And we see that Moon and Mars are conjunct trine the Sun. So there's a Sun-Moon trine in the 5th harmonic chart, and it's very tight. The Moon is at 17 Cancer 31, and the Sun is at 17 Scorpio 39. And a really helpful feature in the Sirius software is it tells us what the aspect in the natal chart actually is, and it's a 7/15. So it may be difficult for you to read it as I capture these to make the video, but it's a 7/15. A trine in the 5 vibration means it's actually a 3 times 5, which is a 15. Well, if you haven't watched the previous videos that I've made on how to analyze vibrational charts, this may all sound a little bit confusing, but don't worry about it. It's actually very simple. All I'm saying is that the 5 vibration chart tells us the creativity, the exploratory nature of the person. People who are artists or creative thinkers who cannot just do things in a rote, standard way, have to follow the flow of life. So typically artists and also creative people who go with the flow in any area have strong 5 vibration. She has Sun and Moon trine in the 5 vibration. This means that she's a fundamentally flowy person who goes with the flow, has a creative idea, comes up with things not by following rigid rules, but by this organic process of exploration and creativity. Well, that's what she does. And to the point where she's one of the most popular singer-songwriters in the United States and influencing the entire world. So the Sun-Moon trine, very strong, fits. This gives us the feeling, well, that's a little bit of a strong coincidence. The Sun and Moon are the most important objects in the sky. They're trine in the 5th harmonic chart. We immediately get the feeling, you know what, maybe this chart is correct. Now, a lot of people are going to look at the zodiac signs, the rising sign, the houses, etc., in the natal chart. You can do that as well. But in vibrational astrology, we find that what the person does, what their talent is, what their motivation is, the things that are overwhelming, positive or negative, are in the planetary configurations. So we're already suspecting maybe this time is fairly accurate. Now, how close to this 8:36 a.m. birth time do we need to be to have the Sun trine Moon? That's where we click on the interactive chart adjust, this feature right here, and we simply move the chart forward an hour, and I've got 1 hour selected. I click the right arrow to go forward, and we see that the Sun-Moon trine now has a 2.5, almost a 3-degree orb. So the Moon has moved up to 20.5 Cancer. So in 1 hour, the Moon has moved out to a 3-degree orb. And we allow about a 5-degree orb for trines, is the orb we use in vibrational astrology. But we have a phrase, orbs are everything. They're a big deal. So a 3-degree orb is not that big of a deal. I mean, you're not like some real creative, flowy person because you have a trine between Sun and Moon with 3-degree orbs. You just don't. A 3-degree orb is not that impressive. It just means, You have normal creativity. You can do creative things if you want to. But to be exceptional and to stand out requires small orbs. So we're immediately getting a feeling that that she does have this sun trine moon. Okay, so here's the original time, and of course if I go 3 hours early, 3 hours, 1 hour earlier, I'll get a 3-degree orb, the moon applying 3-degree orb to the sun, and I do. Moon is applying to the sun with a 3-degree orb, applying trine. Okay, so this is not extremely convincing, but it's a slight indication that she probably is born around 8:30 because vibrational astrology really works. It's very specific, and we have specific expectations, and we can test our ideas very carefully to see if they really work. So we're going to find out, if her birth time is released, if this really works or not. All right, now we look at the 11 vibration. And we see, I've just clicked over here on the 11 vibration chart. It tells me it's the 11th harmonic chart. And I look at the aspects, and I see that Sun Jupiter is square Mars. Sun Jupiter is trine Saturn. Well, those things make sense for Taylor Swift. Sun Jupiter trine Saturn. The 11 vibration is moving and dynamic. Sun, Jupiter, Saturn gives the ability to organize and structure things, means she can organize and structure dynamic and moving things, and she is involved in music, and her music, she has a good team of people that orchestrate and do the sound engineering and develop these things well. So she's good at this. The Mars, Jupiter, she works at it, but it's all kind of vague in the sense that it's not specific to her unique, or not necessarily unique, but her very specific individual thing that she does of the singing ability and the composing. That's more unique. Lots of people can arrange music fairly well. So I'm not getting that much out of the 11 vibration. I'll look at 33 and bam, there it is. So what you do is you look at several things, because people are complex, they have different sides to them, and you find the one that's describing her, and there it is, a classic. Venus opposition Uranus. Very exact, both of them at 3.5 degrees. Very exact Venus opposition, ending Venus-Uranus opposition in the 11 times 3 vibration. Boom! That feels like Taylor Swift. Because Venus-Uranus is this typical combination for rhythm, dance, music. 33 is flowing, light, harmonious, which her music is on a relative scale to other kinds of music that are available. She's not doing some kind of heavy metal, thing. It has light, interesting, creative rhythms. Venus-Uranus, close opposition in the 33 vibration, feels like Taylor Swift to me. And again, it's pointing to the same time, 8:30. So now I have two things, the Sun trine Moon in the 5th harmonic, the Venus opposition Uranus in the 33rd harmonic, feeling like 8:30 must be the time. Now I'm going to do the time adjust. Again, I'll go 1 hour later just to see what happens, and it's still there. It's still there. So this is not pinpointing the time extremely exact. If I go another hour later, it's still there. Venus must be close to stationary when she was born or something. So it's not changing very fast. So it's basically telling me she was probably born in the morning. Because if I keep going later and later into the afternoon, I keep adding an hour, then eventually it does get weak. Let's see. I'm just clicking along an hour at a time here. And by the time I get to what time it's It shows me up here at 6 in the evening. Here's Venus at 10 Sag, Uranus at 4 Gemini. There's a very, very tiny thin line, means it's extremely weak. By the evening, it's gone. So this is not happening to pinpoint me very precisely. Remember, the Sun-Moon trine in the fifth harmonic was there within 3-degree orb for about an hour. This is lasting many hours, so it's telling me it's in the morning. It feels right that this would be there. Now let me cancel out of this time adjust. I'm back to her birth time of 8:36 with the Venus-Uranus. Now, we see the Venus-Uranus opposition in the 33 vibration. It feels right. It is. This is a perfect description of Taylor Swift. Now let's look at my notes. It says, view vibrational charts and midpoint structures. Midpoint structures are very important. So now we're going to do this. We look at midpoint structures in the vibrational charts. So while I'm viewing the 33 vibration chart, I go over here to midpoints and I select midpoint structures. I can first click on the second menu item to look at my settings and change them. I have ascendant and midheaven selected. Well, I'm going to remove those because obviously they move extremely fast, and in vibrational charts incredibly fast, so I don't want that. I'll leave the true node in there, and I'll click OK. I'm going to save these as my new default by checking this, just to get rid of Sun and Moon. I've got only conjunctions and oppositions with a 1.5-degree orb. That's what we do in vibrational astrology. And now we look at these midpoint structures. Let me spread this out a little bit there to make it easier to read. And look at this. Her Venus is conjunct the Mercury-Neptune midpoint, 0.5-degree orb, and Uranus is opposition the Mercury-Neptune midpoint with a little more than 0.5-degree orb. Let me show you it in a pop-up wheel, because this really sounds like Taylor Swift. Okay, let me use this wheel style here. For the pop-up wheel, let me shrink this wheel a little bit. I've got a magnifying lenses here, there. And so we can see what's going on. And this is the 33 vibration chart. Remember, it has that Venus opposition Uranus. And this midpoint structure is telling me that Venus is conjunct the Mercury-Neptune midpoint. Here's Neptune ahead of Venus. Looks like it's ahead by about 40 degrees. Here's Mercury behind Venus. Let's see, 21 Scorpio, a little more than 40 degrees. We don't really care how many degrees it is. The point is that Venus is in between Mercury and Neptune. It's at the midpoint, which means that Uranus is opposition to midpoint. Venus and Uranus are right in the Mercury-Neptune midpoint. This is very important. 0.5-degree orb, very powerful. If you're 0.5 degree or less, extremely strong. Even out to a degree, sometimes a little more than a degree, it's going to be evident. Venus, Uranus, and Mercury, Neptune sounds like lyrics. Venus, Uranus is that rhythm, and then Mercury, Neptune, the idealistic communication, the vision. Wow, this is really very descriptive of her. And we're also picking up a Moon-Neptune midpoint, and the Moon, moving extremely fast in a vibrational chart, is getting involved as well, because there's a Moon-Mercury conjunction. So it's at the Moon-Neptune midpoint as well. This is really confirming the 8:30 time, because the opposition by itself indicates, it's going to indicate this flowy music, so that's descriptive. But this is Taylor Swift. A lot of people will have a particular aspect. It's a planetary configuration, and having that midpoint, having this opposition reinforced by the midpoint structures makes it much more unique and powerful. And we need a unique, powerful, clear configuration to describe a clear behavior and talent in the person's life. This very much is Taylor Swift. Now I'm going to use the time adjust, and looking at the midpoint structures, I'll go forward an hour, and now I see that the Venus at Mercury Neptune is actually getting stronger, and the Uranus at Mercury Neptune is getting stronger. They're down to being almost exact. The Uranus at Moon Neptune is no longer there, but these are getting stronger, so it's possible she's born after 8:30. When the Uranus at Mercury Neptune, well, now this has gotten weaker, and the Venus at Mercury Neptune still strong, so up to about 2 hours after the time she's born, it's still there. And if I go back, this is the birth time, and I go before birth, Venus at Mercury Neptune is already getting weak. 2 hours earlier, it's over a degree. Uranus is not there. I'll cancel out of the time adjust. Let me pull up the midpoints again. So this birth time of 8:30, or a little bit later, maybe up to about an hour later, is putting the Venus and Uranus at the Mercury-Neptune midpoint to strengthen it, to relate it to Mercury-Neptune, to make it a 4-planet pattern, the Venus and Uranus in between the other two. And this continues for at least an hour after she's born, reinforcing that she's probably born at 8:30, maybe up to an hour later. So now we're getting several indications. Remember, we had the Sun trine Moon in the 5 vibration chart. We're getting more and more evidence that she's born around 8:30 or a little bit later. Okay, now let's look at the 55 vibration chart. And in the 55 vibration chart, what do we see? We see Sun and Uranus very tightly conjunct, and they're a little bit less than 2-degree orb, and they are trining. Well, there's the Sun trine Moon again, and a Saturn trine Uranus. So this Sun Uranus is trine the Moon Saturn. Some of it is in orb, some of it's out of orb. Because the Moon's at 12, Saturn's at 20. We're getting a Sun Moon trine, just like we had in the 5 vibration chart. 55 equals 5 times 11. So this gets into advanced vibrational chart analysis. But if you're at a multiple of another harmonic, the aspect will repeat with an orb 11 times larger. So that basically what's happening is Uranus is getting added to this, and a little bit of trine to the Moon Saturn. Also, Neptune is within 8 and 9 degrees of Sun and Uranus, so it's actually a Sun Uranus Neptune. This also reinforces our feeling that the chart is correct, because there is a 3-planet pattern in the 55 vibration chart. Sun, Uranus, and Neptune makes it magical, makes it fun, makes it very imaginative, intuitive, kind of reaching beyond. So it gives it some allure, some magic. She's not singing like a dry, repetitive, she's not like just a technical musician. She's more of an imaginative. She captures the imagination of people. Okay, so this all makes sense, reinforcing what we just saw. Notice here, by the way, that Venus at 15 Taurus is sextile the Sun and Uranus. So we're getting, again, Venus-Uranus as a sextile in the 55 vibration with the Sun. A Sun, Venus, Uranus in 55 vibration, very common for creative musicians. And I can time adjust this. Let's go an hour later. Click on the time adjust. Go 1 hour later. And the Venus is still tightly sextile Sun-Uranus. Very, very tight. In fact, it's a little bit stronger an hour later. I'll go another hour. and it's still there up to 2 hours later. And in fact, the moon gets involved. She could have been born 2 hours. Might have been born at 10:30. So what happens instead of around 8:30? What happens is around the time of the birth time, there'll be some fast-moving objects like the moon that will periodically trigger. So she's probably born between 8:30. She's probably the birth time's right, 8:36. Probably it's correct. If it's not correct, up to about 9:30, between 8:30 and 9:30, there's also a possibility it jumps all the way to 10:30, but then you lose some of the other things. I think she's born between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. I would say I'm about 80% confident that she's born between 8:30 and 9:30 in the morning. If not, remote possibility of 10:30 in the morning. And I would say I'm about 80% sure that one of those is correct. Now, what if I'm wrong? What if we get the birth time and it's wrong? Then we have that 1 in 10 where we're wrong, and then we see what was going on at the time she was actually born, and we question and we doubt and we analyze, and that's how our theory improves. One of the biggest ways our theory improves is when we are wrong. Because when we're wrong, wow, we go over it and analyze and think about what went off, and it refines our understanding. So, that's how the rectification with just looking at the character, just pulling up the vibrational charts that we expect. This is very surprising to people, that astrology can be this specific, this refined, and that these extremely high vibrations, like, oh my God, is David gone crazy? He's telling me he's looking at the 33 vibration, and therefore this is Taylor Swift. It sounds like science fiction to a lot of astrologers, that like, whoa, this is crazy. Well, new ideas, I guess, always sound crazy. And we have controlled research that supports these ideas, and when you apply it with people, it's just fantastic. So it's a whole new world. Okay, so to wrap up here, going back to the PowerPoint, those are the 6 steps for rectifying the chart of a famous person, and the conclusion is that she's born between 8:30 and 9:30 a.m. A remote possibility it jumps over to 10:30 a.m., and if all this proves to be wrong, if her birth time is ever released, an accurate time for a birth certificate, then I'm going to be very surprised, not shocked. We're not always right, and we'll come back, we'll look at it and figure out what we did wrong. But probably it'll get confirmed if her birth time is revealed. So if you want to, by the way, if you want to learn more about vibrational astrology, I've got tons, over 300 YouTube videos, a lot of them on vibrational astrology. You can watch those. There's a book by Linda Berry. I've written 2 books. There are several books we're expecting to come out in 2020 on vibrational astrology. I'm making this in late 2019, so we're expecting within the next year from the time I'm making this. There are online classes. Clarissa Dolphin and Linda Berry give classes. Clarissa's website is siderealsoul.com. Linda's is astrosleuth.org. You can go to that. Also, there's a vibrational astrology conference every March or April of every year. The next one is going to be March 2020. Maybe you're watching this after that, but every March or April. And in fact, if I bring up a website and go to astrosoftware.com, so this is astrosoftware.com, go to conference, and there's a link to the information about the Vibrational Astrology Conference. This is fantastic. Here's pictures of some of the speakers. Giselle Terry, there's Clarissa. Bill Meridian will be speaking this year, who you probably know if you're an astrologer, well-known astrologer, all giving cutting-edge lectures on the latest developments and insights in vibrational astrology. So it's very exciting. So there are a lot of ways to continue to learn and grow and develop with vibrational astrology. Of course, the videos are free. So you got some free services and some things like conferences that, of course, are not free, but we try to make it as reasonable as possible. And I'm one of the developers of the Kepler and Sirius software. and they have extensive features which are excellent for VA. VA, of course, stands for Vibrational Astrology. Okay, I hope you found that interesting, that we can rectify a chart just by looking at the vibrations we expect. Maybe in the future I'll do a similar video on Paul McCartney. Very, very similar. He also has 11 based vibrations. For McCartney, it's clearly 55 vibration, which is where he really stands out, and that extraordinary creativity that he has with music. And there's a certain time period when the planetary patterns are strong in 55 vibration. One of the basic time periods that's speculated that he was born. Again, we don't have a birth certificate, and I can do an example of that in the future just to give you another example, a similar one to this one, in that they're both musicians with 11 vibration that stands out at particular times of the day. Okay. All right, so very interesting. Rectifying the chart based on the very specific expectations that we have when we analyze a chart using vibrational astrology. Thank you very much for listening, my friends. God bless. Namaste.